Welcome everybody to another episode of Link Up with Michael Flix. I'm yours truly. This one I'm really excited about, man. Pardon me. As you guys know, man, I move the Link Up show. I move around and sit down with different creatives. Whether it's, I sat down with a bag designer, a few artists. This one I'm really excited about, man. This is a friend of mine, my favorite brand, the brand I'm trying to rock all the time. My guy Brandon, owner and founder of Trill Consciousness. I appreciate you sitting down with me, fam.
I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to learn. Like I said, I feel like I know a lot about the brand, but I'm excited to learn more about like the origin and exactly how you came up with the ideas and just everything. But as everyone knows, I like to get the artists or the creatives' full entire story. So you're not from San Diego, correct? Where are you from?
No, I'm from Dallas originally.
Okay.
So I was actually born in Indiana. My family's from Flint, so I was there for a little while.
Okay.
Lived in the A a couple of years, and then from like 7 on, I grew up in Dallas. So if you ask, like I'm from Dallas.
Okay.
And then I was in Dallas until I went to school in the Northeast, and then came back to Dallas. Was doing a little bit of consulting, and then most recently a job brought me out here. But
okay.
Yeah, Dallas, Texas original.
What do you, other than being the owner of the brand, what do you say your job brought you out here? What do you do for work?
I work at a bank.
Okay.
So yeah, I work at a bank, manage project initiative based type stuff.
Dope.
So
Money man.
Hey, I'm just trying to be where it's at.
I feel it. How long have you been here in San Diego?
Been here for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I love it here. Everything they talk about, the weather,
mm-hmm.
that's a major thing. And then I tell people a lot, like, California is better integrated into nature, whereas a lot of other places that I've been a lot of places in the U.S., most places we kind of dominate nature, plow it over or whatever, but here you can see coming down the highway a cool scenery, lush greens, mountains, all that type of stuff, whereas in Texas, it's a little bit less of that. So I really like it here. But yeah, been here 3 years, actually going back to Texas.
Okay.
And not too long.
Any reason for that?
The job's taking me back.
Okay.
But also from a brand standpoint, I feel like the next step of the evolution is to kind of get back centered, from a Texas standpoint. Also keep a home base out here because I love it here. I want to be back and forth. But I feel like that's the next step, not only for this business, but for a couple of other things I got going, and then, the job too. But but love San Diego. Always want to come back to San Diego. It's one of my favorite places.
Right. And I know just from being your friend and having conversations with you that you went to Dartmouth College, correct?
I did.
What was it like being, because I know the conversation now is more about the historically black colleges, the HBCUs.
Right.
What was your experience being a strong black man and proud to be a black man going to an Ivy League school? What was that experience like?
I think I tell people first and foremost, right? Like Dartmouth it's like the last bastion of liberal arts, right? So like the idea is to teach you how to think more so than to teach you a specific skill set, right? So like a lot of education is moved to like shit is tracked, right? So like, oh, you want to be an engineer, like, all right, you're gonna do this math, you're gonna do this, and this, and then when you're done with it, you'll have a functional skill set, right? Or that's what they tell you. But Dartmouth, it was, like I say, it's still a liberal arts institution. So I think it taught me how to think. But in terms of being a black man, I think the type of minds that were there, it was surprisingly, I found, at the time, it was surprising to me that I found a community that made being there, tolerable, right? Like it's the Northeast, the snow is crazy, like the cold is crazy, like it's wild. Like I remember walking backwards to basketball practice because the wind was so crazy, like, you know what I'm saying? It'll freeze your boogers, like it's crazy, you know what I'm saying? So
goodness gracious, we don't know nothing about that here.
Yeah, nah, it's a different type of life, you know what I'm saying? But in terms of the environment, you still got different demographics, right? So you got a little bit of stuff that would be challenging, especially but nothing. It's nothing that was more challenging than what you grow up facing in America, and it's probably a little bit, since it's a little bit more insulated. You know what I'm saying? It was still you had problematic stuff pop off every now and again, but in terms of where I stayed, where I focused, where I spent my time and energy, I felt like I had a really cool community. And some of my best friends to this day I met at school. So I think there's definitely space for us in the Ivy League, right? You kind of got to cull it out, seek it out a little bit, create it a little bit, but I don't have nothing bad to say about my Ivy League experience at all.
That's dope. And you said walking backwards to practice, you played ball at Dartmouth?
I did.
Were you there on scholarship?
No, well, the Ivy League, they don't got scholarships.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was not on a scholarship. But Dartmouth did some really cool things with financial aid. So it's a lot of money. A lot of different income demographics too. So, but the one that I was in, and I had a cool upbringing. I don't like to try to portray like, oh, I had to eat ramen. Like, it was cool, but I wasn't. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't rich. Like, it was just, it was cool.
Middle class.
I had everything I needed. So, and probably a little more. So, but still, from an economic standpoint, they had a cutoff, right? So, like, if your family income wasn't over this amount, right, then they started doing certain things with tuition. So I was able to benefit from that, and then come out with like a very, very manageable student loan, what I owe based on what the education cost. So again, that was something that they did that was pretty cool. So but I hooped for a little while, I think two and a half years, something like that. I didn't make it all the way through.
Any reason why?
I think partly where my mind was, and partly I think just the head coach at the time. It was a real tough situation. He ended up being invited to leave, I think, the year after that my situation went down. So, but yeah, I think there was more I could have done, and then the environment wasn't super player, so it just didn't really work out for me like that. But I hope there a little bit.
And what did you get your degree in? What did you major in?
I was an econ major.
Okay, nice. Makes sense.
Yeah, so econ major. To me, I mean, at the time, like, I felt like it was the most businessy thing. Like I say, from a liberal arts standpoint, so it was the most businessy thing. That's what my mind was. It wasn't like you could major in business or whatever. So, but it was also one of the more challenging majors. But I was able to make it through, and it worked out. So
Graduated in 4 years?
I did.
And so after graduating, what was the next step for you? Or what was your next move?
My next move, well, kind of when the dream die, everybody know that feeling, you know what I'm saying, from a hooper standpoint. You reorient, but that's why I went to that school anyway, right? Was to kind of set myself up, at least from an education standpoint, such that I had a viable set of skills that that could be used, and I could do whatever it was I wanted to do. So after that, I was home for a little while. And then a friend of mine at the time introduced me, or kind of reintroduced me to his pop, who ended up becoming a very significant mentor for me. So he actually gave me my first job out of school, which was being in mortgage. So I worked for Saxon. It was like, while all the big banks like Goldman, Deutsche, all of them, they had these mortgage servicing arms, right? Because this was like right around the crisis. So when I came out in 2010, right? Okay. So like the crisis had just hit, but they were still in the business. They was about to start exiting the business, but that sub-servicing, that subprime mortgage servicing, they were doing that. And my mentor was had kind of pulled himself up by his bootstraps and made a real cool name for himself in the mortgage space. So Obviously I feel like I earned it too, but I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity that kind of set the ball rolling. I went in, I worked my move, I did my thing, and then that kind of parlayed itself, job over job, situation over situation, circumstance over circumstance to where I'm at now. So yeah, in between there, I had a little entrepreneurial venture that didn't. I had stopped working with him to kind of pursue that. Didn't go my way.
What was that? What was that venture?
So a buddy of mine that went to school with me, he had an idea for basically a web-based platform that was kind of knowledge-based, but it was kind of like a dictionary for sports, right? So or a dictionary for video clips, right? So and it was a gamification play, so it was like you could be the definition of a crossover for a day, right? And then the crowd kind of chose who would be the definition for the day, right? And then it kind of got archived. But if you wanted to learn, all right, how do I go between the legs, spin off and drop it, you know what I'm saying? You could have that clip. And then there were certain things dissected, certain analysis put in, cool. And then you could, it was a real cool idea. And then that kind of morphed, because using the same kind of video technology, a lot of the sauce was in the video technology piece of it. And then it turned into kind of a mobile affiliate marketing play. So we was trying to do like the tags where you could tap on it and then buy whatever somebody was wearing, because that was kind of in the video, kind of you could track the movement and understand what they were doing at that time.
So pretty much like what the IG shop is now.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? It just, that didn't necessarily work out how I would have hoped. So, we moved forward, and then I had to kind of go back and get a job again. And this was the company I'm at now.
So you've been doing this for a while now.
In mortgage, in financial services, like I've been in financial services, or I've been doing my own entrepreneurial thing. Like that's kind of the lane that I've been in, from a career standpoint the whole time. So that's what's up. So let's get into the brand a little bit. Trill Consciousness. Obviously, because I met you at my man Todd's spot at Spoiled Vegans back when Shout out to Todd. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good dude right there.
That was my partner. Shout out to Todd.
I can't even lie. I haven't been living that vegan lifestyle for a while. I'm about to get back on it. I ain't been feeling I've been feeling dirty inside, bro. I gotta get back. Yeah, for sure. I gotta get back to it. But I met you at Spoiled Vegans, and I already seen I seen you on Instagram. I wasn't following you yet. I had just come across it, and then when I met you, I was like, well, I met him. I might as well follow him now. And of course, just seeing the name off top, seeing Trill, I knew it had something to do with with Texas or Dallas or Houston or whatever. So where did you get the idea to start the brand, and how did you come up with the name and just everything?
So great question. The entrepreneurial venture I was telling you about, at that point in time I had a relationship, so when that was going left, kind of everything in my life was going left, right? So I ran through a bunch of money trying to do that, because I quit before we had launched, right? So I'm sustaining myself through savings, also investing in this, and we not quite getting where we would like to go. And then I had a relationship that was kind of hitting the ground at the same time, and so when I look back at it, what was happening was I was defining myself by these relationships or these appearances or these things, right? And so when those things were taken away from me, right, now you got a problem, right? And so at that point, that was a real dark time from a mental health standpoint. It was rough. I was in an ugly space, and so I came to the point where I was like, all right, I have to find a way to move on. Right, I have to find a way to ground myself in right now, let go of stuff that's bothering me, that's causing depression and causing all types of crazy thoughts, right, and get to a place where I'm moving forward, right? And so that's what really brought me to yoga and the Buddhism, right? So first it just started off with meditation, right? Understanding, I could just be with my breath and kind of put my mind into a certain space, and that can manifest into a whole bunch of different things, right? So I started studying it, right? And the thing that I liked about Buddhism was, at that time in my life, I didn't need anything that required faith, right? I needed something that required something I could touch, something tangible, a framework that was like, all right, you get into this situation, you can rock like this, you'll be cool, right? And so that's kind of what brought me into the meditation, right? And then I kind of got to, okay, the Eightfold Path, right thought, right speech, right action, like all this is, I can deal with this, right? Like it ain't super metaphysical, right? That wasn't where I was at mentally. And then yoga, right? So like I got into meditation, right? And then yoga became like a moving meditation because I wanted something that I could have as a meditation, but marry it to something that was, you know, good for my body. It'd be funny, like the funny thing, I was doing P90X too. Like I was getting my whole shit together. Like, so I got my body right, you know what I'm saying? But like while I was doing that, it was like this, one of the days was a yoga day. And it was longer, and I was like, bro, I think I could do this, but I don't like exactly how it looked on this, right? So I started searching out, and I found some other stuff, and it was like this Broga at the time. I think they a different company that got purchased, but it was like yoga for men. And the dude, it was super cool, and I was able to marry it to what I was, you know, what I was reading, because I got deep into reading. I was reading Malcolm at the time. I was reading John Henry Clark. I was reading the Quran. I was reading the Bible. I was just reading, right? Like trying to find some space, some place spiritually that was like, all right, I'm grounded again. And so fast forward through all that, right? I use those things as a tool, and they significantly helped me, right? And so I was like, well, at first it was like, this is just me, right? Like I'm still Trill, but like I'm on my consciousness thing. So excuse me. So like I'm still me, right? I'm still Trill, right? Like, but like this consciousness thing is something that's really cool and it's helping me, and this is where I'm at right now. Like I'm on my conscious stuff, but I'm still me. I'm still rocking like how I rock. I still like the things I like. I still, you know what I'm saying? Certain things that were significant to me coming up, music, etc.
So pretty much this new like mindset didn't change who you were.
It didn't change who I was, right? And so it was like the idea, like, okay, you could be conscious, right, but still remain true, right? And so
real quick before you keep going, because not everybody knows exactly what Trill means. I know a lot of people don't know about, you know the culture out there, Bun B and all of that. So explain what Trill means real quick.
So Trill is a combination of true and real. It started in Port Arthur, Texas. So like, if you from Texas, the internal politics, like a Dallas and Houston thing, that's kind of like a thing, right? But like, I was always super inspired by UGK. I love Pimp C, like I love, like everybody did, you know what I'm saying? Even he over, like UGK was bigger than kind of that energy, right? So, but I was always super inspired by him, right? And I think what people think they know about them, right? Like Bun B's a professor at Rice, right? Like what Pimp C really stood for, like the stuff he was reading and the stuff he, you know what I'm saying? He really stood for bringing people together, being grounded spiritually. Like, so all this stuff kind of started dovetailing and making a lot of sense, right? But Trill is just culturally, it's a way of life, right? Like it's a very Texas culturally centered thing, right? Like it's an idea, but at its base, right, is Trill. You do what you can. I do what I feel. That there in itself the definition of Trill, right?
Okay,
like
cool.
That's so that's what that is. That's what that means, right? That's what it just represents, a grounding in that root, right? A grounding, an anchor in that place, but also, all right, but how do I explore consciousness? How do I get access to these different ideologies and, you know what I'm saying, these different concepts that could potentially help me, right? So that's where the name came from, right? Like it was at first like, all right, this is just how I'm rocking, this a handle, right? And then it became like, nah, I want to share these things that were significantly helpful to me, right, with people that look like me, with people that's in my demographic, people that think like me, people that's in areas that I'm in. So that became the mission statement, right? And everybody not gonna go read the Bhagavad Gita. Everybody not gonna go read Light on Yoga, right? So like, how do I distill, you know, or the Polycan in the Buddha, you know what I'm saying? So how do I distill these things down to a place where somebody can get the message, you know what I'm saying, and get the benefit from it, but not have to necessarily do all that I did, right? Because everybody might just not be interested in, you know what I'm saying, spending that amount of time in it. But you know, I feel like the concepts can be distilled in a way that are beneficial and, you know, can be if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and doing it right, you know what I'm saying, they can be distilled to a place where they digestible and applicable. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how the whole thing came together.
And so that's how it came together. Were you someone that was always like really into fashion? Were you always like the fresh dude at school? How did it become a clothing brand? Like, how did it morph from what it was before into a clothing brand?
I mean, I wouldn't say I was always. I mean, I feel like I was fresh. You know what I'm saying? But like, I wasn't the like, oh, he the, you know what I'm saying? The super artistic cat with that be in the magazines and cutting out. Like, that wasn't me. You know, I hoop. You know what I'm saying? Like I had hoop. You know, hooper couture. You know what I'm saying? So, it also. And the Trill Consciousness is also, there's an element of being grounded in Black consciousness, Black awareness too, right? Like, so when you become aware, like the idea behind the brand, and when you become aware of something, you can make a decision about it, right? So like, I feel like as a people, you know what I'm saying? The brand is definitely accessible, open to everybody, right? But it's grounded in my Black experience in terms of who I wanted to serve as it started out. So that was the other thing about it, right? Like, so as a part of that consciousness at the time, this is when everybody was tripping. Like, Louis was tripping, Montclair was tripping, right? You remember when they had the blackface, niggas had, like, they everybody was tripping.
Gotcha.
And I remember spending a crazy amount of money on some Louis loafers, and then I spent a crazy amount of money on a Ferragamo shirt for my birthday, and everybody was tripping. And I was like, bet. Y'all ain't got to worry about getting my money no more. You know what I'm saying? And then just economically, right? What am I representing? One, what does the aspiration of those things represent as a mindset? You know what I'm saying? And two, what does real ownership, real empowerment look like? Well, I just make my own shit. Right? Like, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to drop, and you know what I'm saying? So like, even to this day, I'm getting out of the point where it's like, I'm making stuff for me, and now I'm making stuff for, you know what I'm saying, a little bit of a broader of an audience. You know what I'm saying? But it started out like, I make my own stuff. You know what I'm saying? Before I go shop with you, and then
you don't even care about me.
Bro, you not only do you not care about me, you don't really want me in here. You know what I'm saying? You want my money, but like, you don't really want me. This not how you want the brand represented.
Gotcha.
So a lot of people don't know, like, when the season's over, like, they burn all that stuff. So that, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no discounts, ain't no,
so it don't end up in the
so it don't like end up in no, you know, like Polo, you catch Polo at Marshalls, and you know what I'm saying, or Raw, like, you're not catching no off the rack, you know what I'm saying? Maybe in Saks off the rack, maybe, you know what I'm saying, something like that, but you're not catching them. So there's a very specific energy, you know what I'm saying, I felt like for the stuff that I desired, or I thought that I wanted, you know what I'm saying? And so like now, I'm more into fabrics, I'm more into fit, I'm more into feel. So like, I have a different appreciation for the craftsmanship of some of that stuff that I have bought, right? But so like, I don't knock anybody for, you know what I'm saying, because I think they all make beautiful stuff, right? Like, I think they make quality clothes, but it's like, why do you want that? Right? Like, do you understand what an oyster perpetual is, right? Do you understand is you go 3,000 feet, and you know what I'm saying? Like, do you understand the craftsmanship, or are you just like, I want this because I heard somebody singing about it, and this is traditionally what we do is we use that as status, like, you know what I'm saying, to raise ourselves up, because a lot of times we don't feel like we empowered in that way. So I just started being a little bit more intentional about why am I doing stuff, and it manifested into, okay, well, if I'm gonna do it, like, I could just make my own stuff. And then it was like, all right, well, if you're gonna make your own stuff, it need to be, you know, it still need to be at a certain quality, right? Like, I don't want anybody shopping with me and being like, this wasn't that, or this wasn't that. So that's kind of how it manifested into, all right, we'll do apparel too. But I felt like it's not an apparel brand.
Okay.
Right? Like, it's a consciousness and spirituality. It's a Black consciousness and spirituality brand, lifestyle brand that has apparel. Right? Like, I want you to shop with the brand because you're getting something from a consciousness standpoint, and you identify with what you see. Right? Like, and I felt like at a time I had got to a point where I was kind of hawking merch. Right? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a business, right? It's got to sustain itself, and that's cool, but I'm looking for I'm looking for a person that is aligned, right? Like that's who I want to serve, and that's who I want to engage with. And then if you just like you think it's cool, and you just like, oh no, I gotta have that. Cool. Like I would love to have you, you know, as a customer, but hopefully, you know what I'm saying. You be like, well, what's up with this? And you can pick something else up from it, without, you know, this super high pressured salesy type feel, right? So like it's real important for me, and mentally where I'm at right now is like going back into what does the brand represent, and then like bringing merchandise that underscores that and that aligns with that, so that when somebody, you know, they want to shop with me, it's like, okay, cool. Like I want to provide a value, right, and earn your engagement, and then, you know what I'm saying, definitely shop with me, as opposed to I'm putting something in your face and pestering you into, you know, and buying something.
That's definitely how it was for me, man, because like I said, I came across the page and I came across the page and the stuff was dope. But for whatever, maybe because I didn't have the full understanding, maybe.
Right.
Or I didn't take the time to really check it out. I skimmed it. I was like, oh, stuff is dope, and I kept it pushing. But then after I met you and spoke to you and then started following you and hit your website up and really like looked into it and then speaking to you more, I was like, well, that's something I could definitely get behind, something I definitely want to support. So you definitely got a loyal customer and brand ambassador in me, fam.
Yeah, sure. I'm really, really grateful. You know, you've been one of my biggest supporters. Definitely, I know you've been, you know, telling other people about the brand too. So, you know, I'm genuinely grateful for your engagement and support. You know,
oh, it's my pleasure, bro. Sure. I literally, you can ask my brother when we get done, or maybe I was telling my wife, but I was getting dressed. I put my sweater on, and I was like, I just feel good every time I put Trill Consciousness clothes on. Other than, like you said, you take your time with the fabrics and you really like put thought into it. It just, like I said, because I know what the brand is about. Yeah. It's not like, oh, you see a Nike shirt or you see a Levi shirt and you like it. For me, it's like, other than I like it, I know what it's about and it's something I can get behind. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where I am. And then also at a time, I found your brand, I found your apparel, I should say, at a time when, like you said, everybody was tripping. And I had already made up my mind that, I mean, I have to buy clothes. I wasn't at a point like where you at. I'm gonna get there one day where I'm making all my own stuff. Right. But I wasn't at that point yet. But I had made a conscious decision that the clothes that I wear, you're not gonna see. I'm not gonna be a commercial for anybody. Right. You're not gonna see any, like, if as much as I can help it. There's some times when like I can't lie, like I want a shirt that's matching my son, and the only one that matches what he got is like it got Levi across it or something. But I decided to make a conscious effort that the clothes that I put on wasn't going to have logos on them. I wasn't going to be a billboard or a commercial for anybody, because I don't know what you're about. Right. I don't know if you care about, you know, my people. I don't know if, like, I don't know what you're about, so I can't give you my full support until I know. Right. You know what I'm saying? And then I came across your apparel, and I can get behind that. Right. You know what I'm saying? That's for all those that, I don't know if anyone's curious, but other than the fact that it looks dope, that's why I love your apparel so much, because I know what it's about and it's something I can absolutely get behind. Yeah, I genuinely appreciate that, right? And that's that idea, right? Like, if you can mentally, if you can understand what it is and why you're doing something, it's always going to be a reminder of that, as opposed to, you know, something short of that, right? Mm-hmm. So like when you say it feel good, I think it feel good because, like you said, you know what it represents, and you identify with it, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's really the whole thing. Like when you, like, as a part of the lifestyle, is you're above the noise, right? Like that's really what it is. So like, one, is a visual reminder of that. Two, you know, once you make that connection in your mind, every time you go back to it, you know, that's kind of what I want it to be, right? It feels good, you know what I'm saying? You feel like you still put together, because that's my major thing. Like, I don't want to be supported as a black business just because solely because it's a black business, right? Like, I think there's room for that in our community, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Like, in order to help build, but my goal, you know what I'm saying, what the standard that I want to uphold and kind of how I'm trying to come with it is, like, it's put together. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's elevated athleisure. Like, that's really what I'm on. Like, it's elevated athleisure. So
And then, you know, we branch out, you know, but like I said, like I came up hooping, like sweats, joggers, you know what I'm saying? And then like as I got more into fabrics, like I want this tee to feel a certain way on my skin, right? I want it to fit a certain way, right? Like I want it to be breathable. And I've just learned as I've, you know what I'm saying, as you go through the process, you become, you know, a little bit more well versed in this. All right, this didn't work how I wanted it to. All right, let me try this, right? So, and I think right now I'm at a good place where it's like I'm coming with stuff where people are like, oh yeah, I'm rocking with you. So, yeah, I think that's kind of how I arrived at that point, and I'm glad, like, you know what I'm saying. I think you've lived that too. I feel like I already knew that, but you know, I appreciate you expressing that because that's really who I'm looking. That's who I'm looking to serve and why I'm looking to do it.
Absolutely.
You know?
And so once you got, you decided you're gonna have as a part of the brand that you're gonna be selling apparel. What was the first design? Did you already have like the logo? Like what was the first design?
I actually got the first design was this Spiritual Savage one.
Oh, okay, I would have thought it was the Trill Consciousness right here on your shirt.
This one, this is actually updated. At first one, I got it too. It's in here somewhere.
It's alright. I'll put it on screen.
I'm tripping. The first one was, it was the kind of that logo, but that one's been a little less stylized because somebody actually drew it for me by hand.
Okay.
Marion, she drew it for me. She's a super artist out of the D. She's making a lot of noise now. She's kind of being commissioned for a lot of different stuff. So super dope artist, shout out to her. But I kind of told her like, all right, this the concept I want. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I wanted to represent. And she kind of brought it to life artistically. So it was the logo, right, with just Trill Consciousness. It was the Spiritual Savage, and then it was the Conscious Capitalist one. So those three were my first design, and they were just tees. And then it just grew from there. So yeah, that was the first. It was just white and black tees, Spiritual Savage on them, you know, the logo on them, and then Conscious Capitalist on them, and then it kind of just went from there. And then from there, I was like, all right, let's, you know, well, it'll be cold soon, so it'd be cool to have some hoodies, and then, you know what I'm saying. And then from there, it kind of just grew into what it is today. So yeah.
And are the all the different ones, like, so like you say, you have the Spiritual Savage and you have like the Conscious Capitalist and Above the Noise. Are they all like different like collections of the brand, or is it like kind of like how you rocking?
I think eventually they will be. I think I didn't have. I ain't gonna say I didn't have that level of thought. The first collection was supposed to be. The first collection was. I called it the Genesis collection, right? Because like I was in a super spiritual place, obviously already, and then it was like, you know, the beginning, and there was also like I was doing like deep, right, like deep analysis of the Pentateuch. It was deep, right, and like on that level, it was a little bit too deep, right? So, you know, because there's like this documentary theory about how they pieced together the Pentateuch and all of it ain't important, but it was deep. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, mentally, that was kind of what I was putting into that first collection, right? So it was like there was this Genesis collection, and it was like, all right, that was deep. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's not really that digestible. You know, the clothes, people still rock with the clothes, but it was too complex to try to distill that message down in a lot of ways. And then it was like, the Above the Noise collection came, and then it was like stuff started coming together a little bit more. So I think those are like, I wouldn't say, I think they'll branch out into their own collections and into their own ideas and lines that kind of go with that. But initially it was like, this is what this brand represents.
Got you.
Right? Like,
Got you.
Conscious Capitalism, like I'm spiritual, but I'm still a savage, you know what I'm saying? And then like the Above the Noise, the logo, like that, everything about that represented the ideas that I was looking for, you know, that I was looking to put out. So, you know, they was kind of all a part of that original collection. And then, you know, we just been, you know, growing from there.
Like I said, man, I love them all. Above the Noise is I mean, obviously that's the one everybody sees. I got this one too though, but
yeah,
Above the Noise, it when I saw the logo of the yoga man sitting on top of the TV, I didn't know like exactly what it was, but I had a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
And I'm not consistent with yoga, but I love to do yoga.
Right.
And just like I said, when I saw it, and then when I spoke to you about it, about Above the Noise, it spoke directly to where I was in my personal life. You know what I mean? It was things that I was like trying to do with the job that I had at the time. There was things that I was trying to do like with my photography career at the time. And for me, I kind of found myself getting caught up in the noise, whether it was, you know, hearing that somebody said something about me, or being frustrated with, man, like I can't break through this wall of being a better editor, or like I just felt like there was a lot of noise in my head, and it was kind of like making me second guess myself. And I've never really been there in my life. I've always been a pretty confident person, whether I was hooping, playing football, whether I was like anything I've ever done, I've always been confident. But at that point in my life, like I felt like my confidence wavering, you know what I'm saying? And so when I got to Above the Noise, it was like, it spoke like directly to me. I think that's why it's like my favorite, you know, my for lack of a better term, my favorite collection of the brand right now. But let's get into all of them. What does it mean to be a spiritual savage?
So I think a lot of the stuff I like to do is like the idea of bringing these two things, like these juxtapositions, right? Like it was like, no, I'm spiritual, right? Like I had to get to a point, because even affirming that was like a different thing for me at a certain point in time. Like even describing myself like that was like, what is that? Like, what you talking about? What does that mean? Right? And then savage, right? Like I'm still whatever you want that to denote. I think I'm careful with that, especially with indigenous people, because of how that's been used. But like, the idea is, from a spiritual standpoint, it's one who seeks oneness, right? Like you can a bunch of different religions, it's a bunch of different things you could do with that, but it's the idea of oneness, that seeking connection with the universe, God, however you want to describe that, but like that thing that animates and binds us all together, right? Really seeking, right? And then a savage, how I'm using it, is kind of one who bucks social mores, bucks kind of the status quo. And I feel like as black and brown people, you don't even really have an option but to be like that. It's kind of that idea of flipping that characterization, right? And how it's been flipped, you know, in popular culture, but flipping it in a way that is, I'm staying authentic to these types of practices, which were called savage, right? Like even now people be burning sage and people look at you crazy, or you know, woo, but it's kind of that identification, not only identification with, but like acceptance of, and like I'm wearing that, right? Like, so that's kind of the meaning behind, right? Like I'm spiritual, right? Like I'm seeking, right? Like that oneness, that peace, that equanimity, that calm, right? That I can maintain. And then from a savage standpoint, it's flipping the, you know, what we were called, what a lot of people were called, but also like, nah, I'm bucking that. Like I'm doing what I want to do out here. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm rocking how I want to rock. So that's kind of the idea behind what I say. Like I'm a spiritual savage, right? Like I'm bucking the status quo. I'm going back to practices that were shunned. You know what I'm saying? Taken from us and for, you know, having something else forced down our throat, and you know. So that's the idea of that one. What was the other one you asked about?
Conscious Capitalism. That's the one. I'm both of them, of course. Like I said, Above the Noise is pretty self-explanatory, but Spiritual Savage and Conscious Capitalist, I definitely wanted you to like. Yeah. You know. Nah,
I appreciate the opportunity. So, I think capitalism, in and of itself, right? How it's been used and how it's been morphed is a tricky thing, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we were the first capital, right? So like,
that's deep.
Yeah. So there's a relationship to it that, you know, and we see it today. Like unbridled capitalism is not good for people that ain't at the top of it, right? But I feel like consciousness, right? Like it's the idea of being aware, right? The idea of being aware of something, right? But I'm still about this money, right? Like I'm still about getting that paper. I'm still about, because in this society, right, you know, there's revolutionary thought where you could try to change it, but like the reality of to live in it, to navigate it, to survive it, to thrive in it, you gotta have paper, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so that's also, you know, I kind of look at capital and money as freedom more so than I used to look at it as just something to be amassed, right? So it's the idea of, yeah, I participate in it, I want to thrive within capitalism, you know what I'm saying? I'm about a bag. For sure, unapologetically. But I am conscious of, one, what that system is, what the pitfalls are that go with it, and then how I participate in it, right? So like, when you said like I'm looking for a brand that represents this, and that is how I'm gonna shoot, and that's how I'm gonna spend my paper. Like, to me, that's conscious capitalism, right? You recognize the power of where you're spending your money, and then you're consciously choosing, all right, I'm finna do it here. I'm not gonna spend it here, right? Like, so it's that idea of be about your paper, right? But be aware of how this whole machine works and your place in it and how you participate in it. So that's kind of the idea of you know, conscious capitalism.
Man, well, you say you still gonna have a home base here in San Diego. I don't work at in before and after school programs anymore. But I plan to, my plan actually is to have a youth and a teen center.
Yeah.
But I also want to go around to the middle schools and even the high schools and just, you know, talk to the kids. Man, I work with kids for almost 15 years, man. So
yeah,
it's something I still have a passion for. But I would love to, when the time is right, have you come with me and just have you talk to them, because I'm gonna be real. I feel the way when I see so many of my little bros like running out, and with all due respect to all of these brands, but I'm not gonna wear them, but all due respect to all these brands, I see all my little bros running and grabbing the Louis belts and the Balenciaga shoes, right, and the Gucci this and that, and I'm like, that's cool. Like, and I know you're a teenager, you want to show that you fly and you flashy, I get it, but I just wish that my little bros with my skin folk would look into what they have in their parents spend their money on first, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like somebody like you that's conscious, that has your own brand, and that's doing it the right way and with a good message. I think if they were able to, or even just watch this interview or just sit down and talk with you, it'll kind of start to shift the mindset, you know what I mean? Yeah,
and I think, bro, I was that same little bro, like, you know what I'm saying? So like, I think I catch myself in that all the time, because like Malcolm X say, like, it was a time where you didn't know what you know now, you know what I'm saying? And I'm bad with that. Like, there's a significant opportunity for me to improve that. When I say, like, bro, I understand where you at, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the first thing. Like, somebody got to be approached in a level that gives ground. Absolutely. Like, you know what I'm saying? But also, I think it's important, to your point too, one, the stuff got to be fly too. Like, so there's an accountability to that I feel, you know what I'm saying? But also, that idea of, like, you know what I'm saying? Racism is like air. You know what I'm saying? You can't necessarily see it all the time, like, you know what I'm saying? But like, when you're in elementary school, you start to notice, all right, the white boy is treated a little bit different to me, right? All right, if you're a black woman, especially, like, all right, if she a little more light skinned, you know what I'm saying? So like, we start to internalize these things, right? And we learn these things, and then how we value ourselves, especially culturally, like I talked about, right? Like, because we are so oppressed in a lot of different ways, like what we taught ourselves, and, you know, Sunday best, that kind of permeated into what we see now, right? Like, we get our worth, our value from feeling like we can have those same things. Like, that's the psychology of it, right? Like, I don't think 16, 17-year-old kid is thinking about it like that, but like, to me, like, if you got to understand, like, what's there, right? And then if you can understand what's there, like I say, you become aware of something, you can make a decision about it, right? And so, yeah, I would love to do that, but you know what I'm saying? Just to all the little homies, I agree with you, you know what I'm saying? I'm with you. You gotta understand what these brands are, how they feel about you, how some of the problematic stuff that was happening can be traced. It's not new, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like, I feel you. I understand wanting to be fresh, you know what I'm saying? Wanting the status that comes with being fresh, wanting, you know what I'm saying? All that type of stuff. So, but that's, like you said, that's why I'm doing it, right? Like, and eventually, hopefully, this stuff will expand to the point where it's like, yeah, like, you shop with somebody that definitely want the best for you, at least. You know what I'm saying? Like, that ain't gonna spit on your money. So, Yeah, man. Yeah.
Right.
I would love to do that.
Where did you sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Where did for me, my my mom makes fun of me, my older brother makes fun of me. They say I've always been militant. I've always had this pride in myself, this confidence in myself, and also this pride in being black.
Yeah.
And for me, it comes from my house first and foremost, my parents, but then also in elementary school, I was blessed to like my first 4 elementary school teachers were black women that were strong, proud black women. And I was going to school in Southeast San Diego, Valencia Park. Shout out Valencia Park Elementary School. And I had these proud black women as my teachers that taught us about black poets and taught us about Langston Hughes and taught us about like pride in ourselves. So that's where mine comes from my house. And then in my formative years, my teachers were real strong on that. Where does your sense of consciousness and your pride in blackness come from, other than being a black man? Because not everybody, with all due respect, not everybody has that or is that. So where does yours derive from?
I would say similarly. Like I grew up in the suburb too, though. But like in the suburb that I grew up in, it was still a lot of us there, and there was an area where I played football and where I kind of went to after school care and whatever that kind of exposed me to, had different programs and you know what I'm saying, to different the traditional black history stuff, right? And then just exposure. But like I think some of that stuff, it just got to be in you, not on you. You know what I'm saying? So like some of that, it was just in me, because like my parents, they not militant at all by like any stretch, right? Aware, right? Definitely, savvy, aware, but not, I wouldn't say militant, right? But I think it just comes from a certain awareness, a certain level of education, a certain level of exposure at a young age, to your point, and then a certain level of like I say, some of that's just in me. You know what I'm saying? It's just in me. And then as I studied, it activated something, right? Like I didn't have to like it was already like, yep, it was already certain stuff just spoke to my spirit or whatever. So yeah, that's how I say kind of I arrived at the place that I'm at. Yeah.
That's dope, man. And so, what's the like you said, you're gonna be moving back to Texas pretty soon. I'm already knowing. I know that's probably like your biggest. What's the word? That's probably your most like lucrative market, probably, right? Or is it out here because you're out here?
It's been out here.
Okay.
It's been out here because I'm out here.
Right,
I do pretty well in Texas for sure. But I think it's actually been out here. I think because of where my presence is.
Right.
And because of what I've put out or what I haven't put out. You know what I'm saying? And so I think even stuff like I never did, I never did interviews and kind of talk about the brand and that type of thing. So I think as that evolves, it'll give me more of a well-rounded presence everywhere. But Texas is definitely a significant place from a market standpoint for me to be, for sure. But out here is too. Like I get a lot of love out here. I love San Diego. Like get a lot of love out here. But I get a lot of love, in Texas for sure. So a lot of Dartmouth love too. Shout out to
that's what's up.
Shout out to my people that went to Dartmouth. They be shopping with me, my people.
To touch on that real quick, maybe it's just me being not knowing, but I didn't know that the Ivy Leagues didn't give athletic scholarships. Like I interviewed my man Yassine Graham, and he's going to Yale on scholarship. You told me you watched that. He's going to Yale on scholarship, but it's academic. I didn't even.
No, ain't no.
I'm bugging.
Ain't no scholarships you can hoop there. Like, nah.
So you gotta have the brains to get there.
You gotta do some schoolwork.
Yeah, for sure. Bro. And so for you, like physically, you're gonna be, moving to Texas. But what's the next move for the brand and for the apparel? What's the next?
Yeah, step? So I think in keeping with what I want to do, right? Like, so we're gonna do a Sunday men's group, where I'm gonna do a meditation and a yoga on Sundays. I'm gonna teach that class. Potentially working with some other friends of mine, black women yogis, and having them kind of do a women-led class. So like getting that a little bit more specific, or getting that a little bit more consistent. Teaching, you know what I'm saying? Doing a lot more guided meditations, a lot more yoga stuff. Infusing that into the brand and kind of building a community around the engagement on the spiritual side. So that's a major thing that I'm looking to do, and then a lot of dope content. That'll be coming. But yeah, on the I really want to turn. I want to turn people on to meditation, turn them on to yoga, and then turn them on to kind of being consistent with it and how you can be benefited. You know what I'm saying? By something that is kind of hard to understand how it benefits you before you actually try it on and be like, oh, okay. Like, I see what that. So, like, yeah, we're doing the Sunday. We're going to do the Sunday, the Sunday classes. We're going to do maybe a during the week class for women. I'm going to teach a women's class, kind of a different dynamic. I've gotten kind of good feedback about that energy. It's a different type of space. But yeah, so a lot more classes, a lot more meditation. I'm gonna be coming with, from a product standpoint, coming with stuff to support that, right? So like, I'm gonna have a gratitude journal coming pretty soon. Probably some incense coming pretty soon. Probably like a beginner yoga kit, right? Maybe like a mat, some blocks, that type of stuff. So stuff that's in service of kind of helping people start / continue / further that journey. And then from a clothes standpoint, apparel, got some pretty fresh stuff coming. This is coming, so that'll be cool.
Today. That's cool.
yeah. This is coming, or this is coming. You know what I'm saying? Some long sleeve joints with the same kind of material as the tees. So that'll be coming. So yeah, man. You know, but I think first and foremost, what my focus is how do we turn people on to consciousness, both, you know what I'm saying, both spiritual and otherwise. How do we get people's mindset, you know, in a place of abundance, especially, you know, spiritually, mentally, but also physically and financially. Like I don't leave that out of the equation. You know, kind of orienting people towards affirmations, towards an abundance mindset, and then going to get that, right? Like also doing the work, and here's some stuff that's, you know, that's potentially helpful, potentially that could work for you, and then the clothes to match it. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how we coming. You know, would love for people to engage, and you know, or just give me feedback too, like, boy, shut up, like, you know what I'm saying, or like, nah, I'm really feeling you. So, you know, because I know that's what I do when I see people. So, you know, I'm more than happy to hear feed, you know, as long as it's, you know, in bounds, and you know, love to engage and see what people feel or see what people think, and you know, opportunities for improvement. I think that's, you know, a part of the process. So yeah, that's really what's next for me.
That's definitely something I'm gonna need to tap into, because like I said, I can't say I do yoga. Yeah. I've done yoga, and I every time I do it, I'm like, why don't I do this every day?
Yeah.
Or why don't I do this consistently?
Yeah.
So that's definitely something I'm gonna need to tap in. Really, like, truly for me, I only use yoga when like I'm super sore,
right,
or like I'm super cloudy in here. You know
right,
what I'm saying? That's other like, but it needs to be more of a consistent thing for me. So I'm gonna definitely be tapping into.
But I mean, I think the fact that you do it is beautiful. Like, I think that be the first mindset shift. Like, and I know I get into that a lot. Is like, celebrate what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Instead of focusing on what you feel like you're not doing. Like, and that's a whole, that be the whole thing about meditation. It's like the tiniest shifts in your perspective, right? Like that mindset shift, it'll change your sensibilities. And then when your sensibilities change, it make it a lot easier to be the person that you looking to be, or keep the habits that you looking to keep. You know what I'm saying? Because now your sensibilities is like, nah, this is what I'm on. Like, you know what I'm saying? So instead of being like, oh, it's like, nah, I do yoga. Like, you know, when I feel like it, yeah, like I do it. I like to do it more, but you know what I'm saying? So even that as a mindset shift is like powerful. You know what I'm saying? And I only focus on it because I've seen it work for me. You know what I'm saying? But like, everything is energy. So, you know, the energy that you putting out, like, that's where you're gonna vibrate at. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people will talk themselves out of it, or, you know, talk themselves limiting beliefs before they even then, you know what I'm saying, step into it. So, and that's my major thing. Like, it's a million places to go get it, how it's been westernized and commodified and bastardized. Like, I'm not on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to speak to whoever it is that, like, I don't know if this for me. Like, I'm trying to speak to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, what you talking? We don't do. Like, I'm talking to you. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm looking. That's who I'm targeting. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else that you know, if you think my practice is good, you like how I lead meditation, like everybody's welcome. You know what I'm saying? But like that person that's like, but I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, nah, just check me out, come see. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really who I'm trying to do it for. So, yeah.
That's what's up, man. Like I said, I'm a big supporter, big fan, and shoot, not even brand ambassador for the band. I tell as many people as I can. But I learned so much more just about you personally and about the brand. I'm definitely glad I came in. I'm glad you allowed me in your space for this.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for you coming. I really like what you're doing.
Appreciate it, bro.
I think I'm inspired by, like I say, just the same thing that we was just talking about. Like sometimes you just gotta do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so this, like, I'm inspired by you getting to it, by you serving a lane that I don't feel like is being serviced. You know what I'm saying? And your consistency and your commitment to it. You know, they're inspirational for me. So hopefully, you know, in 2021 and beyond, I can continue to develop that and then embody that. So. Yeah, bro, I definitely appreciate you, you know,
that's love, bro. That feels good to hear. You have no idea. That feels good to hear, man. I appreciate you, fam.
Yeah, man.
That was all I got for you, man. I appreciate you letting me get in here,
bro.
man.
I appreciate you coming, dog.
Absolutely, man. It's been another episode of Link Up with Michael Flix.
Yes, sir.
Y'all stay tuned for the next episode, man. Thanks for rocking with me.